Has anyone ever asked me, when you were young, how did you deal with internal pressure? The reason is that sometimes I feel pressure from the expectations I set for myself. For instance, I expected to achieve a certain level of accomplishment at a certain age, or to earn a certain amount of money by a certain time. These expectations often left me feeling disappointed. I watched a video about expectations, and I realized that I should only set expectations for myself. It's best not to place expectations on others. However, when I expect too much of myself, it also creates a lot of pressure. After a period of conversation and analysis, I shared with them that the root cause of pressure is not solely about setting expectations for oneself. It stems from comparison. From my observation, there are two groups of people we often encounter. The first group, as the easygoing group, always has excuses for every problem they encounter. For example, if they are late, they blame it on traffic. If they fail to complete a task, they attribute it to the lack of specific instructions from their boss. Or when they fail, they claim that society does not provide a conducive environment for them. In general, this group always seeks reasons for their problems. However, all these excuses share a common point. They never originate from within themselves. The problem always comes from others, from external factors, and they always see themselves as victims. I don't pay much attention to this group. Usually, I choose to distance myself from those belonging to this group. If they are my employees, I would dismiss them. And if they are people in my life, I would limit my interactions with them. The second group is stricter with themselves. They are individuals with many goals and expectations for themselves. When facing problems, they will self-interrogate first. This group is the one I would pay more attention to because, to me, they have a solid foundation of good qualities. It's just that they haven't learned how to manage and control their self-expectations. Consequently, it develops in an uncontrolled manner and becomes negative forces. Now, let me explain further about the two concepts that I temporarily call negative pressure and positive pressure. First, let's talk about positive pressure. Pressure isn't always a bad thing. If pressure is maintained at a reasonable level, it can be a strong motivation for us to strive. Personally, up until now, I have consistently created pressure for myself, which helps me to improve every day. The difference from the past is that now I know how to manage that pressure at a reasonable level to turn it into positive pressure. However, pressure only becomes negative when we can't manage it. When pressure becomes too great, it can damage our mental well-being, making us doubt ourselves and lose confidence in our abilities. I call these pressures negative pressure. So, where does this negative pressure come from? In my opinion, there are two main sources. 1. External pressure. This is pressure from the environment around us. 2. Internal pressure. This is pressure that we put on ourselves. Let's discuss the first cause first. When we address these causes, we almost solve the second cause as well, which is the expectations from external sources. These expectations often come from people like parents, teachers, and society. In some Eastern countries, parents often expect their children to become engineers, doctors, or directors when they grow up. Then, if unfortunately, their children only have interests in sports or other fields, these expectations gradually become pressure for the children themselves. These are the most obvious types of expectations. Then there are more abstract expectations from society. Society often portrays successful individuals as businessmen, people driving expensive cars, or those dressed in luxury clothing. All these inadvertently create pressure for those leading more ordinary lives. Or like in the case of the young people earlier, after analyzing the issues, I gradually see the causes. It's because you see someone achieving success or financial freedom, and then you also expect to achieve the same. But when you look back at your current position, you realize that you are still quite far from that goal, and it makes you feel pressured. Here are some examples of external expectations, which stem from an underlying cause. More dangerously, it's the act of comparison. In the first example, parents often use the image of directors, doctors, engineers to impose on their children. If the child accepts this comparison, it will create significant pressure on them. This is a harmful form of comparison that many parents use carelessly. The second example relates to societal stereotypes. Society often portrays success as being presidents, actors, singers, and people driving expensive cars. We often encounter these images daily, and gradually they become part of our reality. This can make us feel pressured and inadequate when comparing ourselves to those standards. However, you correctly mentioned that success is not solely about wealth, material possessions, or status. Happiness and positive transformation in life are what truly matter. I make these conclusions not based on subjective opinions, like someone without wealth or status and IQ saying that those things are unimportant in my daily work. Because of the nature of my work, I have had the opportunity to interact and exchange ideas with many financially successful and socially prominent individuals. These are billionaires, politicians, or even frankly speaking, taking off the modesty hat a bit myself. Though I'm nothing compared to them, I also have financial freedom. The positions I hold are enough to assure you that all of these are just means, tools to help us build happiness. If we only stop at having means, it's no different than having a car, but not knowing how to drive it to where it brings you joy. You and the car are still stuck in one place. Returning to the topic of comparison, in moderation, can be a motivation for us to strive for personal development. But if it becomes excessive, it can be very harmful. It can make us lose motivation and slowly lose confidence, starting to doubt ourselves. So, how do we avoid these harmful comparisons? It all boils down to the two words I mentioned at the beginning of today's video: persistence. I'll illustrate these two words through a few specific examples. The first example comes from activities I've been engaged in recently. When you upload content as before, there's an area called YouTube Studio. This is where we manage the content we upload on YouTube. On the first page of YouTube Studio, there's a feature that I really like. It's an area that shows us the results of the latest video and compares how the current video is performing compared to previous ones. This is based on interaction metrics like viewer retention and likes. The reason I like this feature is because it aligns well with my life motto from the past until now. That is, in everything I do, I just need to do today's tasks a little better than yesterday's. That's enough for me. I don't care much about how others are doing specifically. In this case, I'm not concerned about how others are making videos, how many subscribers they have, or how many views their videos get. I might not even know if there are other channels on the market producing content similar to mine, simply because I've never spent time researching those things. Instead, I dedicate all my spare time to figuring out what the best approach is for my audience, with the goal of conveying valuable messages to them. How long should the content be? Or should I adjust the background music in certain countries to keep the audience focused? And I solely focus on those things. You see, the result is still delivering value to my listeners. For me, that's enough. I don't care about the structure of a podcast or a YouTube video should be. In the past few months, I've felt happy just by doing today's tasks a little better than yesterday's. When the first video reached 1,000 views, I strived for the next video to reach 1,000 views too. That's sufficient for me. The reason I really like the concept of persistence is because it carries a very clear meaning. We quietly and consistently strive every day, regardless of our surroundings. It may sound very gentle, but I think it's very powerful. And with such a simple principle in my journey, whenever I stop and look around countless times, I'm always surprised to realize how far I've come compared to those around me, the ones I once intended to compare myself to. So, if anyone is worried that if they just do a little better today than yesterday, will it make them slow down? Then don't worry, I assure you that if you concentrate wholeheartedly, persistently do so every day, you will surely be surprised by the results you achieve at some point. The important thing is not what I say, but I just want to use it as specific evidence for you to see that just doing a little better today than yesterday is enough. Don't care if you're moving fast or slow. Don't care what place you're in compared to others. Just persist like that. And in most cases, at some point when you look up, you'll realize how far you've come. But most importantly, it will bring joy to you in that moment, Now let me add another example for you. That is, I have applied this not only in life, but also in work, especially in managing and operating businesses I've worked with in the past. Some listeners might be a little surprised by this section, because the business environment always involves a lot of market analysis, competitors, and observations. Some companies even have specialized departments to handle this. The same goes for other business sectors. There are many competitive analysis techniques. In the past, when I didn't have much experience, I used to do the same. However, gradually, I realized that it was a futile, time-consuming, and resource-wasting job for the company. Instead, I focused all my efforts on what comes next. I focused on optimizing the company's machinery to build the best products and create the best customer experience. Everything was focused inward. This story also applies to life. In most cases, when we pause and look around, we are often surprised by the results we achieve. It has surpassed many competitors in the market. Now, I'm no longer directly managing, but I still apply this principle in life. I apply this simple philosophy wherever I work. Initially, many people were quite surprised when I said that I only allocated 1% of resources to monitor competitors. The remaining 99%, I focused on how to make the organization better every day. Even in some meetings, I didn't delve into comparative research about competitors. Initially, people were shocked by such a management philosophy, but over time, the results always proved to be the best answer. It has proven to be the most effective approach. I'm completely confident in this management philosophy. Although it may seem a bit unconventional, it's highly effective. If anyone delves deeper, they'll realize that this is a common formula for great companies worldwide. These companies don't care much about competitors. What's more important is their focus on investing in products, customer experience, and the internal workings of the company. These companies are completely different from those constantly spying on competitors and trying to catch up. Furthermore, there's a little-known secret. That's what makes competitors most afraid. They won't fear how much capital or how many employees our company has. What they fear most is seeing us striving to be a little better every day. Taking the example of a company might be a bit hard to imagine, so I'll use a simpler example with video production. Let's say now I see a competitor starting to make videos. This is a hypothetical example, not reality, and I have a competitive mindset. And probably nobody has time to compete in making videos. But in such a scenario, if I have a competitive mindset, what I fear most isn't how good their microphone is or how skilled they are with effects. What I fear most is seeing them consistently putting out new content every day, and each one slightly better than the last. That's what I fear most. In business, it's the same. Competitors are most afraid when they see us diligently improving every day like that. But this is just an outer garment. In fact, in the spirit of what I'm saying, whether our competitors are afraid or not, we shouldn't care. The last point I want to share with you is, be confident enough to overcome negative pressures. Confidence isn't about thinking we're better than everyone else in the room, but rather, it's about walking into a room and not comparing ourselves to anyone. Once you stop comparing, that's when you stop doubting yourself. For me, when we cease comparing, that's the pinnacle of confidence. When you have confidence, it plays a significant role and determines our success, not just in work, but also in life. Ignoring the previous examples, I hope my analysis has helped you see the big picture of comparison as well as its harmful effects. When we let go of comparison, that's also when we remove pressure. At that point, the only pressure left for us is how to be better today than we were yesterday, just a bit. This is also a kind of pressure, but to me, it's positive pressure. It's enough to help us achieve great success in life, and more importantly, it will bring a lot of joy in our journey. As I've mentioned many times in every journey, from leisure trips, outdoor adventures, mountain climbing, to life journeys like the journey to freedom. The destination is important, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that we must find joy in the journey. With it, we can go far. And for me, the greatest joy in all my journeys is seeing today a bit better than yesterday. But if I keep constantly looking around to see where others are going, where I stand compared to them, then it's no longer joy. It's a kind of negative pressure. If anyone has participated in running races, they all know the joy of running. It's also close to this philosophy. It's about seeing ourselves better every day and finding joy in the journey of running, not about finishing first or second. Winning and losing only happen in sprint races. In the journey of life, I think it's more like long-distance running than sprint races. Yes, but many people confuse the journey of life with sprint races. They try to outdo those around them, to be richer than their neighbors, thinking that if they're richer, they're better off. They try to reach the destination sooner, but they forget to enjoy the joy in every step, the motto that I have lived by all this time. And indeed, it has not only given me confidence, but also brought me much joy every day. Speaking of success, if I have to name a secret to these successes, it would be the word persistence. It has helped me get to where I am today, living a life just as I wished, filled with much happiness and contentment. I also wish for all of you to experience such feelings. Let me end today's session here. If you find these shares helpful, please share them with your friends and loved ones. Additionally, as usual, if you like this video, please hit the like button to help our video reach more people. Thank you for your support. Wishing you all a joyful time with your loved ones and family.